Hello children, this is Shumana Sarkar from Birla Vidya Niketan. The chapter we are going to discuss here is Poverty as a Challenge. That is chapter 3 of your economics book. Now, why do we call poverty a challenge? Well, in our daily life, we come across many people who we think are poor. They could be landless migrant laborers in villages or people living in overcrowded juggies in cities. They could also be beggars with children in tatters. In fact, every fourth person in India is poor. This means roughly 270 million or 27 crore people in India live in poverty in 2011-12. So, this illustrates the seriousness of the challenge. This chapter deals with one of the most difficult challenges faced by independent India, poverty. After discussing this multidimensional problem through examples, we will discuss the way poverty is seen in social sciences, poverty trends in India, and the world that are illustrated through the concept of the poverty line, causes of poverty, as well as anti-poverty measures taken by the government. We will then merge the official concept of poverty into human poverty. Poverty means hunger and lack of shelter. It is a situation in which parents are not able to send their children to school, or a situation where sick people cannot afford treatment. It means lack of clean water and sanitation facilities, lack of a regular job at a minimum decent level. Above all, it means living with a sense of helplessness. Poor people are in a situation in which they are ill-treated at almost every place. Obviously, nobody would like to live in poverty. One of the biggest challenges of independent India has been to bring millions of its people out of poverty. Mahatma Gandhi always insisted that India would be truly independent only when the poorest of its people become free of human sufferings. Social scientists look at poverty through a variety of indicators like illiteracy level, lack of general resistance due to malnutrition, lack of access to healthcare, lack of job opportunities, lack of access to safe drinking water, sanitation, etc. Analysis of poverty based on social exclusion and vulnerability is now becoming very common. Let us discuss these two terms. So, what is social exclusion? According to this concept, poverty must be seen in terms of the poor having to live only in a poor surrounding with other poor people, excluded from enjoying social equality of better off people in better surroundings. Broadly, it is a process through which individuals or groups are excluded from facilities, benefits, and opportunities that others enjoy. A typical example is the working class of the caste system in India, in which people belonging to certain castes are excluded from equal opportunities. Vulnerability to poverty is a measure which describes the greater probability of certain communities, say members of a backward caste, or individuals, say widow or a physically handicapped person, of becoming or remaining poor in the coming years. vulnerable people have less alternative livelihoods available to them in terms of assets, education, health, and job opportunities. Further, these groups face greater risks at the time of natural disasters such as earthquakes, tsunami, etc., and terrorism also. Why poverty becomes a cyclical, never-ending process sometimes? Well, in economics, the cycle of poverty is the set of factors or events by which poverty once started is likely to continue unless there is an outside intervention. Families trapped in the cycle of poverty have either limited or no resources to come out of this situation. This could mean that the poor remain poor throughout their lives. Now, how to measure poverty? A common method used to measure poverty is based on the income or consumption levels. A person is considered poor if his or her income or consumption level falls below a given minimum level necessary to fulfill the basic needs. Each country uses an imaginary line that is considered appropriate for its existing level of development and its accepted minimum social norms. For example, a person not having a car in the United States may be considered poor. In India, owning of a car is still considered a luxury. So, poverty line varies from country to country. The present formula for estimating the poverty line is based on the desired calorie requirement. The accepted average calorie requirement in India is 2400 calories per person per day in rural areas and 2100 calories per person per day in urban areas. Now children, can you guess why the people in rural area need more calorie than the people in urban areas? World Bank uses a uniform standard for the poverty line. Minimum availability of the equivalent of $1.90 per person per day. The percentage of people living under poverty has declined in the earlier two decades, that is from 1973 to 1993. The number of poor declined from 407 million in 2004-05 to 270 million in 2011-12. It is further declined to 84 million, that is 8.4 crore in 2017 from 270 million in 2011. Though the proportion of people below poverty line is also not same for all social groups and economic categories in India. Social groups which are most vulnerable to poverty are scheduled castes and scheduled tribe households. Similarly, among the economic groups, the most vulnerable groups are the rural agricultural labor households and the urban casual labor households. The double disadvantage of being a landless casual wage labor household in the socially disadvantaged social groups of the scheduled caste or the scheduled tribe population highlights the seriousness of the problem. Some recent studies have shown that except for the scheduled tribe households, all the other three groups like the scheduled caste, rural agricultural laborers, and the urban casual households have seen a decline in poverty in the 1990s. Apart from these social groups, There is also inequality of incomes within a family. In poor families, all suffer, but some suffer more than others. In some cases, women, elderly people, and female infants are denied equal access to resources available to the family. Interstate disparities. The proportion of poor people is not the same in every state. Recent estimates show poverty rate is high in states like Madhya Pradesh, Assam, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Odisha. Bihar and Odisha continue to be the two poorest states with poverty ratio of 33.7 and 32.6% respectively. In comparison, there has been a significant decline in poverty in Kerala, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat and West Bengal. States like Punjab and Haryana have traditionally succeeded in reducing poverty with the help of high agricultural growth rates. Kerala has focused more on human resource development. In West Bengal, land reform measures have helped in reducing poverty. In Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, public distribution of food grains could have been responsible for the improvement. The global poverty scenario. In the decade between 2005 and 2016, India lifted 27 crore people out of extreme poverty, more than the combined population of Congo, Uganda, Iraq, Venezuela, Australia and Italy. India more than doubled its per capita GDP also, moving up from being a poor country to a middle income one. An average Indian now earns slightly more than rupees 10,500 a month, up from around rupees 4,000 in 2005. The numbers are flattering but deceiving. More than 36 crore Indians still cannot afford free square meals a day, which is why the World Bank continues to bracket India with countries like Nicaragua, Honduras, Kenya and Kiribati. On an average, even people in war-torn Libya and sanctions-plagued Cuba continue to earn more than Indians. There is another worry line for India: the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative, which annually publishes the most authoritative index of poverty across the world, has found that the poorest among India's poor did not increase their income as much as the other sections did. It means that the gap between the poor and the rich is widening fast.